Hello, Trombone Internet. This is Chris Van Hoff, assistant to the regional manager of the International Trombone Festival. We at the festival, of course, are huge fans of the pod, and we are really excited to invite you to attend this year's 2024 International Trombone Festival at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. Dave Begnosh is our host. We have the world premiere of a brand new double concerto for trombone and piano with the Fort Worth Symphony. We have the American Brass Quintet. We have late night jazz featuring a Latin jam session. Like, everything is happening. All the cast will be there. It's the best hang in the world, and we hope to see you there. You can register for the festival still online at www.internationaltrombonefestival.com, and it's happening the last week of May. So go register. We'll see you in Texas.
Welcome to the Trombone Retreat, podcast of the Third Coast Trombone Retreat. Today on the podcast, we talk to Marques Young, bandleader, composer, and principal trombonist of the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra. My name is Sebastian Vera, and I'm joined as always by Nick Schwartz. Nicholas, what say you?
In the words of Abraham Lincoln, what's crack-a-lackin', my dude?
Pretty sure he did not say that.
Wow.
We like to be historically accurate on this show.
Yeah.
And grammatically too, because we definitely know how to spell principal.
You know, I don't even know. I can't defend myself. I can't. I think I was kicked in the head by a donkey or something when I was a baby.
Honestly, no one said anything, so
I'm surprised. Yeah, so if you didn't catch it, I went on about using the right principal when you're saying like principal trombone on your resume, and then I spelled it out. And while I was spelling it out, I thought, gee, Nick, you better not misspell it. And I left out what the L?
The I.
The I.
So literally, while lecturing people on how to spell things correctly, you spelled it wrong. But you were focused on the last three letters. Like, I understood, and I literally I heard it 4 times and I didn't even noticed. So I'm just as guilty. But we had an amazing hang with Marques Young. He's a deep soul, man, and he's a freak talent.
Oh my god!
And he's one of those people that, like, he's always the coolest guy in the room, you know? And it was just really cool talking about how a kid from Arkansas ended up on the other side of the world, thriving.
Yeah, and you know, I've always had respect for Marques. He's a really awesome dude, awesome player. He's got the sound. He really does have the sound.
Q-Sound.
Q-Sound.
If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. You can find us anywhere, everywhere, anywhere, and everywhere. Hey, Nick, when's the last time you cleaned your room?
March of 2020.
Well, I can tell you some people that are doing some cleaning. That's Houghton Horns.
Oh,
Their spring cleaning sale.
they got stuff and they got to get rid of it.
So they got great deals on brass instruments, cases, mouthpieces, and accessories. And it's not quite spring yet, but we can pretend.
We can hope. So if you want to take advantage of this amazing sale, go to houghtonhorns.com/sale.
All right.
Enjoy the podcast with Marques Young, spelled with a kiss.
Cool. Man, what's going on?
This is simultaneously the earliest interview we've given and the latest interview we've given. Because it's 9 a.m. where we are, and you are literally on the other side of the world, and it's what time?
10.
10.
After 10 now. Yeah.
10 at night.
Yeah.
So
But
you're literally in the future.
But you're a night owl, aren't you?
I like to do some stuff at night, yeah.
Don't worry, that doesn't sound shady or anything.
Work, of course, work. Yeah.
Yeah, Then straight home, straight to bed.
Straight to bed. 9 a.m.
Yeah.
bedtime.
So how are things going, Marques? I haven't seen you in forever, man.
Man, I know. It's been like, I think you were out here, what, like 2011 or something like that?
I think it's 2012.
2012? Yeah.
So 9 years ago.
Man, a lot of stuff has changed, you know.
I know.
Not really, but, you know, kind of.
I mean, I know that. I mean, your whole section in the Malaysian Phil is totally different.
Totally different.
How are things going over there? Speaking of being a night owl and working, I mean, are any live things happening at all right now?
Yeah, straight from my apartment, man. Like it's been I mean, I kind of envy other places that have more stuff going on in some regards because our whole music industry has kind of been put down. We can't really do any performances outside of our homes. I mean, there's been some couple of people, venues that have tried to do some live stream stuff, which has been cool, invite some audience members, but by and large, it's pretty much everybody's kind of stand low. And the thing for Malaysia is like we don't have as many cases, obviously, as some other countries, but just because of the numbers of the country, like the country's smaller.
Hmm.
So we just went into another lockdown about 3 weeks ago because the cases were surging. And we had like 4,000 confirmed cases in a day. So for Malaysia, that's a lot.
Hmm.
So we went back into this lockdown, and we're waiting to see on I think February next week. I think it should be February 6th, whether or not we get back to medium lockdown. It's still lockdown, but it's just not as bad, you know.
So what does that entail? Can you like with restaurants and bars? Are they open?
Yeah, so like it's not like a real curfew, but it's like basically everything can stay open till 10. If the cases go down, they usually push it to 12 p.m. So you can have like you can go to bars, but still like they have the SOPs, you know, so you can't get too close. Got to do the check-ins and you got to sanitize, and you should wear your mask. Although when people are drinking, you know,
Mhm.
people stop asking.
Are they letting people perform at all when things are open like that?
Nah, man. I mean, that's kind of the unfortunate part is that you'll have a bar that'll be packed with like tons of people, but you know, the rules are that we can't have any live events like concerts and anything. So the bars technically what they do is they call themselves restaurants for the time being, just so that they can get, you know, everybody's got to make their money. So, but unfortunately for the live music industry, we're still kind of stuck not being able to perform.
Yeah, New York had a similar thing where if you were to buy a drink, you had to buy food. And so a lot of these bars that were just bars started doing things like, all right, you can have a beer, but you have to buy a pickle for 25 cents.
It's a really good one. You'll love it.
Yeah. And so you just get this like, you know, Vlasic pickle on a paper napkin. Like, here you go. There's dinner.
I was at a bar in Pittsburgh that got in trouble for not serving enough food. So there was a point in the night where they just walked around and handed out hot dogs to every table. Like, here, eat this. We're a restaurant.
Oh my God.
I wish we had that. Yeah, that would be great.
I wouldn't look here for inspiration for performing. There's not much going on. I mean, Sebastian had a gig the other day.
Well, tell us about it. How was the gig, man?
Hey, this isn't my interview. It was weird. It was around people. Mozart
Wow.
Requiem. It was very nice. So, you know, I imagine having all this free time. I mean, has it been for you? You're a creative person. You're a composer. You're a performer. You have your hands in so many different hats. I mean, have you used this time in a productive way to explore different things?
You know, man, it's I'm gonna keep it real. Like at the beginning, so we've been in lockdown since March of last year. And probably like everybody, like when it first started, it was kind of like, oh man, you know, I get to have like maybe a month off and just chill, okay, you know. But then after like the fourth month, you're kind of like, okay. And the type of psychological stuff that you have to deal with internally, that was probably the most interesting thing for me because like I feel like I've never had to experience that before. So it took a little while to kind of get the engine running, just because I guess like, you know, when you're performing all the time, you kind of don't realize that you're drawing from so many different sources and, you know, for inspiration that you just keep going just because you're surrounded by it. But with the lockdown, you get isolated. I mean, you can practice at home, but nothing really beats playing before a live audience, you know, and playing with your colleagues, like playing in the orchestra and having those moments where you stand up after a great concert and you know, you look at your colleagues and you're like, yeah, that was cool. You know, that stuff really, it definitely affected me. So what I started doing is I started to get some of my band members together to do weekly live stream shows in my apartment. Just set up my home studio and you know, crammed everybody in 1 meter apart or whichever. We try to. It was a great alternative to kind of getting that camaraderie, that music, and then you start to feel better about things, and that kind of leads to more stuff. So I think for me, it was tough staying proactive, and I'm still working on trying to deal with that, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think it's possible that, to somehow put a positive spin on this, that we've all been given the gift of perspective, the fact that, we all get professional musicians, we all kind of get caught up in the day to day, and it's great. We're constantly getting to do something we love. We don't have time to overthink things or really go within sometimes, like the situation has kind of forced us into. And do you think getting it taken away like that, it helps us appreciate what we've been getting to do so much more?
Yeah, totally, man. It's like, I was actually thinking about this today. It kind of reminds me of like when I was a kid and I had like this surplus of time to just practice and do stuff. And so like changing my mindset to go into that space has definitely been helpful because like you said, you have this time. So you can kind of like go into, whatever your imagination will allow you to, taking up new skills. I've been working a lot on audio engineering. I think that there are good elements about it. I guess like for me, I just love being on stage. So that was a big adjustment, I should say. But since this is kind of going to be the way forward for a little while, I think it is important that we stay versatile for sure.
And I'm sure many people are missing you on stage as well. So Nick, you want to take it back a little bit?
Yeah, I want to roll it back to a little boy named Marques Young growing up in Arkansas.
Marques Young, according to Jim Markey.
Marquis.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Marques Young.
Some S's are silent, so it's cool.
Marquet.
Well, I want before we do that, I just remembered this when I was out in Malaysia playing with you. We had some guest conductor, and we were doing like a week at Broadway, a night at Broadway, or something like that. Yeah. And he had a roster of the orchestra in front of us, and he sees your name, and he's like, Marquez. And he said, that's an interesting name. Where is that from? And you're like, Arkansas. I mean, I was dying.
I know you got a lot of these kind of stories to roast me on camera, Nick, so take it easy.
Oh. I have one I'm dying to tell, and I'll throw it in at some point. But let's go back to young Marques in Arkansas. So when did you get into trombone? How did you get in the trombone?
I got in the trombone, I was about 16.
Oh, late.
Because I started on euphonium. I mean, that was my first instrument. I play euphonium.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, truth be told, my initial reason for playing trombone, I was like, man, I could probably get some girls if I play trombone. And so I started playing, and it...
Yeah. How'd that work?
Yeah.
Did you get more girls with trombone or euphonium?
That's a trick question, man. I can't dog the euphonium players out like that. I wouldn't like that.
What city in Arkansas did you grow up in?
I grew up in Fort Smith.
Fort Smith. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours away from Little Rock.
Okay, yeah, because half my family's from Arkansas. I think we talked about this once in BB, Arkansas, like hour north of Little Rock.
I know that area too.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide, okay, I want to go into music, or was it, because I know that your first school was in Fort Smith, right? University of Arkansas, Fort Smith, right?
Well,
Arkansas Tech.
Arkansas Tech, right.
Yeah.
That's right.
This information is readily available on the internet.
I know it is. I had it backwards in my head. Arkansas Tech.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of knew I wanted to have a career in music since I was probably when I started playing the trombone. I think I got exposed to like some JJ, checked out some Christian Lindbergh recordings, and I thought like, man, I could have a career doing this stuff, and people could pay me for it. That's cool. That's probably like
plus the girls.
Yeah, plus the girls. Well, priorities. So, but yeah, I started at Arkansas Tech University, and I had a great teacher there named Dr. Will Kimball, who came to Juilliard to do a breathing clinic once. I don't know, were you still there, Nick?
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah.
He's an amazing historian too, right?
Yeah, he was really great, man. Like he was like the link for me as far as like coming from this, from Arkansas and kind of like getting into like this big league mindset. He played some of the first excerpts that I heard. We had like an orchestral rep class, so he introduced me to a lot of repertoire. He got me into the Arkansas Symphony, playing for a couple concerts. So he was a big influence, and he also kind of convinced me to audition at Juilliard.
I'm trying to imagine the cultural leap from Arkansas Tech to Juilliard. You must have been like the star of the school there, and then was Arkansas Tech more education based?
Yeah, definitely education based. I mean, I think my original plan was to go to Arkansas Tech and then transfer to either UNT or Berkeley, because I was pretty sure I was going to do jazz after I transferred. But after auditioning, after my teacher, Dr. Kimball, told me, audition at Juilliard, it's great, you can like do really well, and surprisingly, when I got in, I was still on the fence of whether or not I should still go to do a jazz thing, but he convinced me that it was really important, and that was definitely one of the best decisions of my life, because I got to go and meet guys like Nick and study with Joe and all of our classmates, and the cultural shock was tough, because like New York is big and it moves fast. It took me a few years to really like find my pace with it, for sure. But it was worth it.
Man, I remember you showing up, and it's like the studio's small enough that when there's someone new coming in, you try to get the information. And so like the things that I was hearing, it's like, okay, there's this guy coming from kind of nowhere, and
Ouch.
he's got this huge sound and this beat up horn. And then, so I remember meeting you in one of the third floor dance rooms, and I heard someone playing. Like, you remember this? If you hear someone playing, you might just pop your head and say, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah.
And so I popped my head in, and I was like, "Oh, this must be the new guy," So I went and introduced myself, and you were playing, and you put your horn down. Instead of putting it down on the slide end, you would turn it over, and you had I think it was a Bach 42 with an open wrap, and you used to put it down on the F slide, upside down, and so that the crook in the F slide was like beat to hell,
Yeah, man.
But where did that start? Putting it down upside down?
I don't know where. I think I heard from somewhere that if you put the slide, if you sit it on the slide, it'll warp the slide.
Yeah,
and so I was like, oh. So let me flip it the other way. But as far as all the dents and stuff, that was marching band. That was.
Oh. But yeah, you had like one thing that everyone who's heard you play, I think will agree is, man, you have the freaking sound, dude. Q sound. But seriously, you have like one of my favorite trombone sounds. It's just so beautiful.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Huge. It's like a force to be reckoned with, So yeah, so you're in New York, you're dealing with, the big smelly, fast moving city, that we all love and hate at the same time. So you were there for how long? 4 years? 5 years?
5 years. Yeah, 5 years.
Was there a big pressure difference when you got to this school and, having these classes every week?
Oh yeah. I tell you, because you said, coming from being a big fish to being a small fish in a big pond. Yeah, it's tough because like when you do that, I think a lot of at least for me, like I know I experienced this, a lot of my identity was built into me as a trombone player. And so when you go and you see players that are better than you, kind of have two choices. That's what I thought. It was like, I can be broken by it and just like, quit because Nick sounds so good and he's getting on to me about Tchaik 4 or Brahms 2. You remember those?
Brahms 3, I think it was.
Brahms 3.
I'm not proud of that.
No, it's all good. It's all, but I you know what, to be honest, like I loved it. Like it was tough, but I loved the challenge. I think it was great for me. It got me out of my comfort zone and ultimately, was the best decision for me. So I'm happy to have had it.
So I remember, when you showed up, I don't think really any of us knew your not only passion for jazz and funk and things like this to play, but we had never heard you do it. And then I remember you were in a funk band.
We played in Milo Z's funk band, a couple other ones, like the name slipped me right now. But the cool thing about those bands was we had to kind of like dance and play. And obviously, like outside of marching band, I wasn't really used to that. So I think that was good for me just to kind of like learn to get out of my comfort zone. Because like, you know, if you're on a stage and you start dancing and you look off, and everybody else looks okay, then it's like, oh man, you know. So, you know, you learn how to try to fit in a little bit. So that was really
because
cool.
normally as like a orchestral musician, you're just like, okay, just sit there.
Yeah, you can kind of hide in the back, but
So I remember, I mean, that was probably like, I don't know, your second, maybe third year in New York that was happening.
Mm.
And, you know, I remember hearing from so many people, oh man, like they'd go see you play with these bands and how great you sounded and how great the band sounded. And that was the first time I got wind that, you know, this was something that not only that you were passionate about, but that you were really good at. So then from there, obviously, you're going back to your roots of wanting to be a jazz player too. When did that transition start where that became a part of your life along with classical music? I mean, like where you decided, okay, this is something I want to do going forward.
man, you know, I remember a chat with Kyle, actually, Kyle Covington. Shout out to Kyle.
Mm.
And Kyle, I was sitting outside 309, and Kyle, he just said, you know what, you just need to figure out what you want to do. And I was like, yeah, I think so. And it honestly, that took me a while. Like, I actually didn't figure that out until well into moving into Malaysia, because I always found this, I wouldn't say pressure, but it was a challenge to try to figure out, okay, am I really this? Am I really this? Am I classical? Am I jazz? And eventually, like, I just figured I'm both. And I made peace with that. And once I made peace with that, I think it kind of helped me as far as my understanding of how I wanted to move around, and definitely the kind of music I wanted to write. And I like both. So it took a while.
I mean, when you were in New York, I mean, you started your master's, right? Can you talk about that time in your life?
Because, I mean, you don't see many people. It's really hard to get into Juilliard, obviously. And then they have this amazing jazz program that's almost totally separate. And you don't see many players be able to get into both.
Yeah, that was a huge blessing. I mean, I would say the first years that I got there, while I was obviously doing the classical division, I was trying to hang out with guys like Mike Dees, Willie Applewhite, James Burton. Marshall, when he came, I got to chill with him a little bit too. I mean, like all the guys that were in the jazz department, I would just kind of pick their brain as much as I could about what they were learning, what they were checking out, if they had any tips for me to how I can continue developing. So getting into the jazz program is definitely something that I would accredit to a lot of those guys, because they really helped me figure out how to play or a direction. And then getting into the jazz program was great because I finally got to just sit in the chair and immerse myself with the curriculum and, you know, the jazz history, and just being able to focus on it so that I could have a more thorough background in how I was going to play it. I think that was really helpful. It was good.
And I mean, being in New York City, I mean, it gives you the perfect opportunity to, like, that first 4 years, you're studying, you know, serious classical music, but you're still in New York. So, I mean, it's the perfect place to supplement all the other things you want to do. I mean, you're only limited by the people you know and what you want to do, right?
Man, facts. Like New York, I mean, we could do a whole chat on just New York. I mean, the stuff that went on there. But staying PG.
Oh, you don't have to be PG.
My mom is around. She won't see. But New York was like cool because, like, you know, once again, like being a small fish in a big pond, there's so many sources of inspiration. I mean, like obviously the top, you got Winton and the Lincoln Center that you can go check out, which is concerts. You got the Met, the New York Phil, obviously, and one of the, like, even for me, one of my first live orchestra concerts, actually, this might be my first one, was seeing the New York Phil play Mahler 5, which is before our sectional that we had, Nick, our low brass class.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget that low brass class.
What?
I got absolutely reamed that week.
What happened?
That rhythm in the first movement, bum, 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 bum. For some reason, I wasn't playing it like square enough for Joe, and he said, "Nick, can you count to 4?" And I said, "Yeah, I can count to 4." And so he made me stand in front of the class and count to 4 in time, like for like what seemed like 5 minutes. It was probably like 30 seconds, but it was embarrassing.
I think that was the point.
Yeah, exactly.
We all have some of those. No worries, man.
Oh yeah, it's everyone's turn at some point.
Yeah.
Man.
But I mean, going through that, I mean, a lot of people can identify with having a tough teacher, but there's so many benefits to that, right? And for me, sometimes I didn't realize the benefits until later, as far as just toughening you up a little bit and making you be responsible, making you be like super on top of what you do.
Man, so true. Like, there's been so many moments where, you guys know, like, you're on stage and you're performing, and I always have this little voice in the back of my head, like, especially if it's like bolero, I'm like, oh man, I might crack this note. But performing in front of like low brass class and in front of Joe, hard teachers like that, it kind of prepares you for every situation, because you're just like, especially like, you think you're doing a really good job, but like, because they're really pushing you, they're grooming you to kind of handle that mental stress too, that you deal with on stage. And that's been a lifesaver. And crazily, it's influenced my life outside of music as well. Just how you make decisions, how you want to do things, having that same mindset, get the job done, as they would say.
Oh yeah.
It's good stuff, man.
You're in the jazz program at Juilliard, and then you audition for Malaysia. Why? So this kind of goes back to you finding your identity. You obviously, there's obviously something drawing you to classical music still, and there's you're passionate about both. So how did this decision come about to take an audition halfway around the world?
Man, I honestly don't always know. Like, I think I've always had a curiosity for traveling and doing stuff abroad. But it's weird because I was in a really good spot in New York at that time. I felt really happy about things. But I guess the opportunity to earn some money really, intrigued me at the time. And also when I went to visit Malaysia, it was a really cool place. Like, you guys have been here. Yeah, it has a charm about it. The food, from the food to the,
I want to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, the food is so good.
The weather, like, you got, great beaches, and
the weather I thought was hilarious. When I was there for a month, and it was the month of February. And every single day I woke up, and like back home, I have like my weather app, and it's saying it's like 7 degrees back in Pittsburgh. And then every forecast, the high would be like 96 and the low would be like 95. It'd be like that for like the whole week.
Man, life in the tropics, man. The weather, the food. And it's a cool like melting pot over here too, because you've got a lot of different people. Obviously the people that are in Malaysia, like the Chinese, the Indian, the Malay population, but then the Japanese, the Korean, Australian, European, South African, African. Like, there's so many different like groups of people that you can get exposed to in just like a little coffee shop. I find that pretty cool, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy staying here so much.
Yeah, it really is. I was surprised by coming there how incredibly diverse Kuala Lumpur is. It really does have a wide representation from all over the world, which you don't see in a lot of other Asian countries, not to that extent, because it's such a relatively small Asian country and it's so diverse.
Yeah, and that's Thailand has it too.
Yeah,
Thailand's pretty crazy.
It's so cool how easy you can get to, like, you can take a flight for like an hour or something, and it's like $40, and you're in Thailand.
Or less.
And end up on this amazing beach, and it costs you like $40, $80 including the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an alluring place, right? And I can't imagine, if I told 15-year-old Marcus that he'd be living in the other side of the world. I mean, I can't imagine how much you even knew about it at that point. But walk us through the transition to getting there. What were you invited to come play for a little bit and then auditioned, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I got invited to sub first. And then, in addition to that, they said, oh, and by the way, would you be up for coming for a year, to sub for a year? So actually, the trip to Malaysia was only supposed to last for 1 year. I did that thinking that I was going to go back to Juilliard, finish my master's, and then carry on from there. But after the 1 year, they asked me to audition. And so I took the audition just because it just was like, I just take the audition, I'm here. And I ended up winning the audition. And that was a pretty tough choice, deciding not to go back to New York, because I did miss it a lot. But, you know, coming out of school and earning some cash was nice too, you know, so.
Help us further enlighten people about Kuala Lumpur. It's, like we said, it's very diverse. And what may surprise people is it's a very, very modern city. It's full of skyscrapers, and there's a lot of international business going on. It's kind of this international business hub for Southeast Asia. And so this orchestra, kind of describe, it's at the base of one of the tallest skyscrapers in the world, right?
Yeah. So MPO, Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, is part of the Petronas company, which is a big oil company, which I guess you could tie this into part of the reason why I did move out here, because the orchestra is funded by the oil company. They're able to take care of, you know, the musicians in a really nice way. So that's pretty cool. And then you talk about the modernization of the city. It's crazy because it changes even more like every year. I'm not quite sure what that is about, but I know there's a huge drive within Malaysia to try to like just get as modern as possible. And so they keep, you know, trying to up the ante on the technological part. So that part is pretty fun to live within that and see things evolve.
And you also want to like preserve the history and the culture there, and these little hole in the wall food shops that'll like restaurants that'll blow your mind. And I imagine that's a constant struggle with all this new business coming in.
Definitely. Well, there's this huge culture now of like these digital nomads. So they're like running around too, because cost of living is pretty low to live out here. So you can park for about 5-6 months for really low cost and do your tech work or whichever type stuff you do. So that probably plays a part too, I think.
Wow. Yeah. When you went to Malaysia, how is the jazz scene there without you being there? Did you cultivate a lot of it, or was it already existing in a big way? Yeah, I mean, not just jazz, but kind of what you do, which is kind of a mix of things, you know?
A mix. I'm still trying to figure out what that sound is. Yeah, I mean, the scene has got a lot of great musicians. And I think one of the big adjustments for me was coming from New York, where everything was, you know, very traditional, or, you know, there was a sound that was in the jazz scene for sure. And an openness too, but there was definitely like a strong presence of like straight ahead jazz. Whereas here, I'm not sure why, but that presence isn't as strong here. People definitely do it, but it's not something that people like really, really do. But what they do happen to do a lot of, they play a lot of different styles. The musicians over here are super versatile, you know, and that's probably why, or probably played into how I developed my sound, because just I tried to come here and kind of force a sound on the community at first, which was a huge learning experience, because, you know, you really learn the value of teamwork and how important it is that when you're playing in an ensemble, you know, everybody needs to feel like they're a part of it and that they have an important part to play. So I had to kind of adjust how I was running my bands, to trying to think more along the lines of like, okay, I have these set of players. What is the best situation that I can create for them to give me the best that they have to give with music? And once I started flipping it like that, then I saw more interesting stuff happen with the music, as per trying to do it one way. And that was a learning experience for me, because it made me also want to feel like, okay, how can I be more versatile in situations so that I can always give to a situation, even if it isn't my first option. And I think that as a musician, that helped me develop probably an even more stronger appreciation for the symphony. One of the beautiful things about living here is that we're still kind of building the soil for what's to come with Malaysia. So
yeah, but I mean that's really cool. You were saying how New York has this very, very established culture of jazz and music making, that when you go to a place that's, like you said, fertile ground, it's kind of opens up a lot of possibilities, because it's kind of like what you make of it, right? And there's all these talented musicians, and I was blown away by the level of talent there. And that it's like an opportunity, right? You can just do it. I mean, there's some level of, like you were saying, figuring out the audience, figuring out your other musicians that you're playing with, and not just 100% just doing whatever you feel like all the time. But there's some bigger flexibility there, I'd imagine, right?
yeah, I mean, it's the same like playing in a with some good musicians in an orchestra or a band or whatever. Like sometimes it's your time, and sometimes it's not your time. So making everybody have a good time at the same time is like, that's the gig, you know. And like I was expressing, like I think playing in orchestra after that experience helped me really appreciate it more. I don't know why, but like it helped me be able to hear like, oh, the oboe is doing this. How do I support that? You know, I can't just be, you know, playing loud all the time. Like I have to kind of figure out how to make artistic statements in all aspects of music.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, maybe it's just as simple as perspective, you know, just being able to step away from it and look at it and analyze it, let it sink in a little bit, you know. Yeah.
In your earlier days there, man, you and was it Tony Wise and Zach Bond put out some ridiculous videos, these epic like adrenaline low brass videos, playing in this. First of all, the hall is beautiful and it really sounds great, and you guys just sounded incredible together. What was it like in those early days?
That was really fun, man. We got in trouble all the time. I would say the orchestra still kind of bruised from that period, but
for just playing too loud.
Yeah, there's a couple concerts. I remember there's a Copeland 3 and there's a Bruckner 7 that
those are both ripe for it too.
Yeah, I mean, it was like we had just gotten here together and we were all excited. So we'd have like sectionals all the time, made sure we were set to go, you know, more than we needed to be. But it was really fun. Like it was like kind of like being back in school and playing with you know, the guys, you know.
Yeah.
But getting paid for it.
But getting paid for it. Yeah.
And that's a hell of a section. I mean, also with Brett down on the bottom.
Yeah, Brett's a silent killer, man. He's got that huge sound.
Fantastic tuba player.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great time. We got in trouble all the time. That's hilarious.
My favorite random rule about the hall is, because it's a Muslim country in a lot of ways, and it's the company's owned in that way, and so you're not allowed to wear open-toed shoes and you're not allowed to wear shorts. And so I made the mistake once of, because you know it's really hot and humid all the time, and you know you're dripping in sweat and you're walking into rehearsal, and you know I had shorts on, and I called them the pants police, because the guards will quickly be like, nope, sorry, got to change.
Yeah, they're pretty tight on those rules. I mean, I guess it's because it took me a while to kind of make peace with that too, but you know, orchestral music, this whole culture, it's still fairly new to the community. So they're trying to establish it in a way, you know, that people kind of pay respect when they come, which is a good thing for the art, because like, you know, for us as the musicians here, when people speak of the ensemble, it's usually with some respect. I'm not saying that that's because of the no pants rule exclusively, but I get what they're trying to do.
I have a pretty exclusive no pants rule.
This I know.
It works really well during the pandemic.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know if I've done a podcast interview yet where I'm not wearing sweatpants.
Yeah, I've worn sweatpants pretty exclusively since March.
Yeah, me too. Man.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember showing up for rehearsal my first day in Malaysia, And I mean, yeah, the walk there, you're just sweating your ass off because it's so freaking hot. But then you get inside of the mall leading up to because the hall, we should say, it's in between the Petronas Twin Towers, and in between there is a mall. Everything.
Talk about how epic these malls are.
I mean, malls in Asia are amazing. Yeah.
It's like 8 stories,
and also the food courts are like real deal food.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like Panda Express like you have here. It's like real freaking food. And
are you hating on the Panda right now?
I'm hating on the Panda, dude.
How dare you?
But you walk in through a mall all the way to the back, and then there's the concert hall in the back of this mall. First of all, it's like 1,000,000 degrees outside, but then inside it is freezing cold everywhere.
Yep.
So actually, that once you get inside, the no shorts thing doesn't bother you so much because it is cold in there. I remember practicing at night in the hall, and there being like a fog in the hall.
Oh man,
from humidity. You know what I'm talking about?
I got a great ghost story, so I don't know if it was the fog. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah, from the hall, inside the hall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What happened?
It's like the Phantom of the Opera.
There was a night I went in to practice about 2 a.m. and I'm doing my thing, night owl, and I see this figure. You know how the hall is set up where if you're on stage, you can see that recording booth in the back.
Yeah.
And so I was on stage practicing, and I swear, I see this like head of this woman come out of the wall. And I had to look like a couple times. I was like, am I tripping? Like, what's going on? And so I'm sitting there, I'm watching this, and I'm seeing this pop up, like, do this, come back, do this again, come back. And so once I felt kind of weird enough, I packed my bags and I went out to the security guard, and I was like, hey man, like, is there somebody in the hall right now? And he was like, no, everybody's went home. And I was like, are you sure? Because I keep seeing like somebody in the hall. He's like, oh, is it a lady? And I was like, yeah. He's like, not human, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So then he was like, yeah, there's like a family that's like that, like circulates around regularly, from a long time ago. So the crazy thing was I posted this on my Facebook the next day, and everybody in the thread knew about this ghost.
I have goosebumps. That's amazing.
Everybody knew, except for me.
She dug your plan, apparently.
Mozart Requiem.
I don't even know what to do with that information, Marcus. Oh my! I like how the security guard was like, "Oh yeah, the ghost."
It's normal.
Smart.
No, they have a lot of spiritual stuff over here, so it's. I mean, from Malaysians, it's pretty common, but it wasn't to me.
Yeah, no kidding. I'd be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done with this.
You're like, no more 2 a.m. practice sessions.
Yeah, no, I don't do that anymore. I'm done at 10.
I remember when I was there, we were out eating lunch, and you said, yeah, like my neighbors are getting after me for practicing. And I was like, really? And you were like, yeah, I wasn't playing that loud. I guess it was kind of late. And I said, what time was it? And you're like, it was like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too, man.
Yeah, that was yep. Yeah.
Because most people are living in a lot of people are living in these like high-rise apartments buildings, right?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing. Although when I left the orchestra, I did live in a big house, and I got this 6-bedroom house, 2 stories.
6 bedrooms?
It's like 6 bedrooms, 2 stories with my partner at the time, and we paid not even maybe $500 a month.
Wow,
massive.
Where was it?
It was about 15 minutes outside of town, but still close to a big shopping mall, so it's okay.
But I mean, money can go so far there, right? A lot of people had sometimes live-in maids, or everyone could have someone that just comes and cleans their place every day for pretty cheap.
Oh yeah, you can get a maid to come. Well, I mean, yeah, get maid. The cost of living here is really affordable, so that's part of the reason also why I enjoy staying here, because you can do a lot of things for very low cost and still get pretty good quality for it, for the most part.
What's your favorite part about living there, like non-musically?
Can't say that on camera. Like,
I still remember. I still remember because, like, you hang out with Marcus there, and everybody loves Marcus. He's the guy that walks in the room, and everyone's excited he's there. And I guess we were at a place, and there were some like beautiful women, and there. I mean, that's normal there.
Tell us about that, John. Who the girls? You remember?
We don't need to go into great detail there, but I still remember one time you were like talking to me, and I was like, I was saying something like, I don't even know what to say, like, and you were like, just what works for me. Just go up to one of them and be like, hey, you on Instagram?
Oh man!
And I'm like, what is that? He's like, I don't know why. They always get really excited.
We might be drinking, bro.
let's break it down.
That was definitely happening.
If you're a Marcus looking guy and you go up to a person and ask that question, you're gonna do well. If you're a me looking guy, it's not gonna work so well. Maybe some pepper spray. I don't know.
No, you got charm, Nick. I've seen you charm your way into things.
Yeah. Okay, now I can tell my favorite Marcus story. So there might have been some beer involved. There might have been a lot of beer involved. And we were at Big Nick's, if you remember Big Nick's.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So this was like a pizza place, but they also had an incredible happy hour, $1 Miller Genuine Drafts. And so we were there, and it was probably, I don't know, 1 a.m, something like that. And this group of girls walks in, and Marcus is immediately like, all right. And he immediately starts in, and he leads with, hi, ladies. My name is Marcus, spelled with a kiss.
Do not tell me that worked.
Bro, you just...
It didn't.
threw my line out on camera. God, no, I can't use it anymore.
Well, I think I made it not work because when you said that, I started laughing like crazy.
Killed my game.
I killed it. I wasn't a good wingman. I was taken at the time, so I wasn't participating.
No, man, those New York times were great. I actually remember. I don't know if you remember this, but you and Dana were you guys the first on my 21st birthday? You guys took me out to drink beer, and that was the first time I think I got drunk on beer. Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Thank you, Nick.
I'm not surprised I was there. Oh, Dana.
Yeah, Dana.
Nick was the first for a lot of people.
Yeah, I have that influence.
Indeed.
Oh, we have a question someone wrote in. Brian Hecht wanted to ask you.
Oh, what's up?
What's up, Brian Hecht? Basebone Brian?
Yeah.
He wanted to ask you what your biggest influence musically and creatively was.
Ooh, man, there's so many. Oof. There's so many. Trombone wise, I mean, Joe for sure. All the jazz greats, JJ, Slide, Curtis Fuller. That's tough, man. I don't know. I like so many things. That's probably my problem. I could draw from so many things. Like,
that's not a problem. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, like when like hip hop. I like a lot of hip hop. So I went through a huge like Nas, Notorious B.I.G. phase, Jay-Z, Earl Sweatshirt. Went through an EDM phase. I don't know. I like a lot of stuff.
Wow, rap to EDM. That's that's opposite sides.
Dude, they used to have these. We can't do them now, but they had this really amazing festival they used to run here called Future Music Asia. I think it was an Australian-owned festival, and they bring all these huge EDM acts. And that was the first. That was such an eye-opening experience for me because I saw the first time, like just thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people just tripping over music, and I was like, wow, music can do that? Like, I want to do that. That's cool,
Yeah.
It was really amazing to see that.
Did you ever get into like the microtonal EDM stuff?
Not so much, but yeah.
When you do that in headphones, it's pretty trippy because it's warping. It's very, very crazy.
I dig that. I like the journey.
Where did Q sound come from? The name?
It's kind of a combination because of like some of my friends would call me Q. Because of the Q, the name. Actually, because guys like Nick would say, oh, you have the sound. So one day somebody asked me to put together a band name at a gig, and I was like, Q Sound. And that was it.
It works.
It works.
So tell us about all the different bands you play in and the recordings that people can find, obviously on like your YouTube channel, Instagram.
So I was first quite active with my former band called Basement Syndicate, which you can find on YouTube and Spotify and all the places. And then I departed from that to start my Q Sound project, which you can find on YouTube and Spotify. Also, just Q Sound Music TV is my YouTube channel. And now I'm actually working on a new EP that I'm producing, and it's going to be a little bit different. I'm not actually playing a lot of trombones in it, which is weird, but I'm playing some trumpet, which is also weird. But it's just kind of like a bit of an experiment, this project, just to see where I can go musically, and hopefully people like it. To be out in the spring.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. We'll definitely share all that stuff once it's out. Do you use one of those big, like those Wycliffe trumpet mouthpieces that has like the trombone rim, but like a shank of a trumpet? Have you seen those?
Yeah, Wycliffe. Wycliffe.
Yeah.
No, just normal like trumpet mouthpiece for me. Actually, even the trumpet, I got it from a friend who was closing down her restaurant, and it was actually just like a table piece. And so as she was closing, she was closing it down, and she's like, "I'm gonna sell this trumpet." And I was like, "No, give it to me." She's like, "Okay." And so she gave it to me, and that's how I have this trumpet for the last 7 years.
Yeah, I have a trumpet sitting in my closet that I'm just like, someone had it and they didn't want it. I'm like, I'll take a trumpet.
Like free trumpet.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Just like I have a theremin in my closet. Anyways, a few rapid fire questions we typically ask at the end of interviews. What's been, if you had to pick one, like a single musical experience that was the most memorable? This is a tough question sometimes, but it's one that really, besides getting to perform next to Sebastian Vera.
Yeah, Mahler 7.
Like, anyways.
That was cool, man. I had fun on that too.
Yeah, it was great sitting next to you here. You play the euphonium solo. It was incredible.
But that was good.
Besides that concert, what's your most memorable?
Well, besides that one, man, definitely playing with the New York Phil. That chance encounter where Don got snowed in or something, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He got snowed in. We had literally just played on Heldenleben with the Juilliard Orchestra. I think like maybe a few weeks before.
Yep.
You remember that big air ball I had on that?
Oh, yeah. I think I might have given you shit about that.
You gave me some for that. I deserved it, though. I deserved it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I deserved every bit of that. But I think I was playing Rose Shoes with Chris Reeves that day, and then Jim called me. I was like, "Yeah, can you come in like 30 minutes?" And I'm like, "New York Phil asked me to play in 30 minutes? Okay, yeah, sure. And when you grow up, you think, idolizing these guys, like it's obviously an honor to be on stage with them. But the best thing that I remember was how warm they were, and how inviting they were when I got on stage, and supportive, and just really made me feel like great, And they didn't have to do that. They could have been like any other kind of way, but they were really warm and supportive, and that impacted me a lot as a musician, because you can be great and also be a good person,
Yeah.
So
wait, what?
Yeah, it's possible, man.
Hold on.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
What would you tell your 18-year-old self right now?
Ooh, dang, that's a tough one. I would probably say trust your instincts. There's a lot of times I feel like we, as we're kind of progressing through life, we kind of unlearn a bunch of stuff, and we find out that we were kind of right all along. And I think that that's been something that has happened for me, where I guess as an artist, as you try to perfect your craft, it's always important to remember who you are and why you do it. And I think that that was something that I had to remember over time. So I would tell myself, just like, whatever you're doing, just remember why you do it, and stay in the pocket, stay in the current for what you're doing it for.
I love that.
Good.
I got one more. What's for young trombonist? What's one musician, or you could even make it a trombonist, or just broaden out to musician, that you think that they should hear if they haven't heard yet?
Ooh, man.
Jazz, classical, whatever.
That's cool. That's tough, because like the internet provides you so much surplus of stuff.
That's the problem, though.
Yeah,
I think
true.
people get overwhelmed and then they'll just never like go find this person sometimes.
If I had to pick one, I would say Wynton for me. Because Wynton was one of my first inspirations for sure. When I saw him, I think it was his classical album with the Carnival of Venice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's really good.
Yeah, I picked that up at a record shop one day and I was like, oh, this looks good. I put it on and I was like, yo, this guy played a high E flat at the end of Carnival of Venice and he's triple tonguing and doing all this stuff. Like, I need to practice. Like I can't, So I think Wynton, what he's done, music, obviously for music is definitely you should check him out.
Well, I mean, I think that's a perfect example because of who you are too, because you straddle that line like he does too. Like, he can play jazz and obviously, I mean, that's what he's most known for, but then turn around and put out like one of the greatest trumpet CDs ever, like classical trumpet CDs. I mean, that's rare air to be able to do that,
Yeah.
And you are able to cross those lines so well that most people aren't able to do.
He's a GOAT, so I'll take it. Wynton.
I like to ask this question of all our guests. What is something that musicians can do more of in their studies?
This is obviously a player-to-player thing, but I would say probably just circling back to just like take a moment and just write down like what is the music that you grew up listening to. Because, we learn so much through osmosis. And a lot of times those sounds are what's going to come out when we play anyway. So it wouldn't hurt to kind of take a conscious look at that music. And for me, in my case, like I thought it would be good to learn more in depth about R&B, hip hop, gospel music, in addition to the stuff that I was trained to do at school. And it helped me deepen my understanding for my voice as far as like when I play. And that stuff actually does translate because like you can, if you hear like Dvorak 9 and they get to the third movement and they like you could flip it like that. And so like that information that you took from that other influence can be helpful. So for a lot of trombone players, what I would say is just like, don't forget the stuff that you grew up listening to. I mean, it can be anything; it doesn't matter. But the key is just to own that influence.
I like that answer.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a really good answer.
Own that influence. That'd be a good quote. Sometimes like you interview the people for the podcast and we need to get like promotional materials and like they'll have like one picture like that their wife took like 10 years ago. And your Instagram, man, you have such amazing photography on there.
Thank you.
You've gotten to work with a lot of great people, it looks like.
Yeah, there's a lot of talented people out here.
Q Sound Music, that's what it is, right?
IG is Q Sound Music. I just launched my Q Sound band page too. You can follow that if you want. There'll be a lot of stuff coming up over the next few months, so definitely stay tuned for sure. We're cooking.
Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Well,
appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's it's just starting to get late for you, or maybe it's early for you.
It's all right, man.
He's about to go practice.
Yeah, I'm gonna practice. I got my warm up right here. So
oh, nice, dude.
Yeah, some apple juice.
Uh-huh.
Nah, thank you guys for having me, man. It's been a pleasure to catch up with both of you. It's always great seeing you. Thank you. Keep doing this podcast. This is great. You guys are doing some good stuff, man.
Thanks, man.
Sebastian.
Yes, sir.
That Marques Young is just a suave gentleman. He's
a very suave gentleman. He's definitely, he's one of those people you're talking to and you're like, man, this guy's way cooler than me.
Yep.
And he was literally in the future. Like we were talking to someone in the future. We should have asked like our fortunes or something.
Well, we should have interviewed him like a week ago before the Powerball was hit, and we could have got the numbers.
Oh my gosh. We got to use this podcast to like, win the Powerball.
Step 1, set up a podcast. Step 2, step 3, billionaire.
That's how it works, though. I mean, all podcasters are at least like multimillionaires, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. That's why everyone does it, for the money.
kind of like trombonists.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a great talk with Marques. I mean, I haven't seen Marques in, I mean, it might have been last time I was in Malaysia, 2012. We've talked a little bit here and there, exchanging messages and stuff. But generally, yeah, that was the first like long talk I've had with him in forever. I knew he was doing well, but it is great to hear how well he's doing. He's really established a lot of amazing things out there.
Yeah, it's cool seeing, like, I think he exemplifies someone who just kind of follows how his life unfolds and follows an opportunity. And at the same time, he knows himself, or he's discovering what he wants, and he's open-minded. And he's just like, you know what? I ended up here, and it's actually kind of awesome, and I'm doing my thing, and I love it. So, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I always, it's when his life was unfolding from looking from the outside, it always seemed like every decision was like a conscious, like, okay, well, in 1 year I want to be in the master's program doing jazz at Juilliard, and then I want to win an orchestral job, and like all this stuff. It seemed like it was all part of some plan he had. And, it's kind of actually refreshing and reassuring to hear that like those things that happened to him kind of happened from the opposite standpoint. Like he was like, well, this seems, yeah, like you said, this seems like a great opportunity. Let me see what happens. I'm going to flesh it out. And, being a great player, great guy, the world's your oyster.
And, I mean, we both had the opportunity to go play in Malaysia. I was there for a month in February, which I was very happy to escape Pittsburgh winter.
I was there for about 3 weeks in March, so I know the feeling.
Yeah, and you know how it's like. What it's like. It's like they put you up in this, amazing hotel, and you're literally on the other side of the world. So most everyone is asleep when you're awake. So for me, I mean, it was kind of tough after a while. I mean, it was incredible experience, but you miss people after a while, and there's like this short window when you can try to get a hold of people. But I mean, that was tough. The music making was really cool. The food, I mean, talk about the food for a second, like the famous street and everything.
But there's a night hawker street that at night it just transforms into like food fest, and there's all these different stalls with specializing in chicken wings or stingray wing or like curry or some noodle dishes or soups or something like that. But you can kind of hop from stall to stall. You can do that in a lot of places in Asia, but what I found so amazing about both Malaysia and Singapore is because it's such a melting pot, like going back before the modernization, it was primarily the Chinese, the Malay, and the Indians that were there. And they've, like, since those cultures have been coexisting for so long, like there's been like secondary cuisines that have come out of it, like Malay and Indian mashup cuisine. And, it's freaking awesome. And it's weird at first, like eating hot soup when it's like 1,000,000 trillion degrees outside, but they're right. When you eat hot and spicy things, it makes you sweat, that cools you down. You feel good to go.
Jalan Alor.
That's right.
Bukit Bintang is the street I had to look up on my Instagram. It's considered one of the most famous food streets in the world. Just, yeah, you can experience everything. And if you go to a place like this, you got to take, if you don't consider yourself an adventurous eater, I mean, take a chance, because, it's going to be such a unique experience and such a way to understand the culture in a different way. And most things, if you try it a few times, you might like it. They are famous for that. What's that fruit that smells terrible?
Durian.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it tastes like rotten onions, and it smells like if you poured kerosene into an old gym bag.
That doesn't sound like a pleasant smell at all.
Some people love it. I mean, it'd be one thing if it smelled that way and then you tasted it and it was like, oh wow, like tropical brightness. And it's like this was one of those things. It tasted exactly how it smelled, which is a terrible thing, Yeah,
it's one of those things that people like to do, like to be adventurous. Or like, oh yeah, I had durian, and I'm like, okay, I was like, maybe I'll try it. And I walk by the booth and I'm just like, nope.
Yeah,
you just get one whiff and you're just like, sorry.
And there's some compound in it that makes you burp more. And so all day you're like burping like horrible, like rotten onion burps. It's just the worst. It sucks. Some people love it. For people from Southeast Asia, I know you love it. Not all of you, but some of you do. And that's great. There's a lot of things I love that other people don't love. So
Did I ever tell you my adventure just getting there in the first place?
didn't you miss your flight or something weird like that?
Well, that was going to Bangladesh. That was a whole other adventure. Oh, don't remind me. My Uber driver just didn't show up before like a 30-hour travel day. But yeah, Malaysia, obviously, look it up on the map. It is very far away. If you could travel straight through the world, it might be a little faster. But
Wait.
unfortunately, we can't do that yet.
Isn't the earth flat, Sebastian?
Not that kind of podcast. So, I flew Pittsburgh, Detroit to Tokyo,
Mhm.
which is not short. It's pretty cool. You go over Alaska. It's the middle of the night and you see these little lights coming up from really small towns in very, very northern Alaska. Super cool. I land in Tokyo. Never been to Japan before, but I had a quick connecting flight to Kuala Lumpur. And in Japan, they're like super organized, super on time with everything. And the flight landed, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes later than scheduled. And there was these two sweet little Japanese ladies waiting for me at the door. I walk out and they're like, "Hello, John Sebastian Vera." I'm like, "Yes." Sorry, that's a terrible accent, but that's kind of what they sounded like. And they're like, you do not have enough time to make your next flight. We have booked you for another flight. And I'm like, really? Like, there's like still like an hour. Like, I have plenty of time. They're like, and there's just no point in even arguing. So they're like, "Please follow me." I'm like, okay. And they already had a ticket for me and everything. It was great customer service.
Yeah.
And so I'm just following them through the airport. I don't really know what's going on. I stand in this line, I stand in another line. All of a sudden I'm like, wait, am I going through customs right now? I think I'm okay. Wait a second. Why am I outside?
Whoa.
Okay. And they're like, "Stand in this line." And I'm like, what am I waiting for? They're like, "You will get on this bus and go to other airport. Your flight is in 8 hours at the other airport." And I was like, okay. And I was like, "How long is this bus ride?"
Oh,
Like
it's really-
1 hour, 30 minutes or
Yeah.
45 minutes.
You probably flew into Narita, and Narita is way the other side of town from the other airports.
And it was just like one of those things. It's like, okay, can't control it. Cool. I'll actually get to see Japan for a second. But it was like midnight and it was pitch black and it was a boring drive. So I didn't really get to see anything. Get on the next flight, wait forever. Another 8 hours, get on that flight, which is another 8-hour flight. I think the first one's like 12. And then I finally get there. And since I was so much later, I had to go straight to rehearsal from that flight.
God. No, thank you.
And it's 12 hours ahead. So it felt like the middle of the night. I was delirious. You're just kind of like sleepwalking through the rehearsal. And then I went back and slept for 3 days.
Yeah, when I was there, I realized the day of my first concert that I hadn't been able to stay up past 7 p.m. on any of the nights, and I was like,
Yeah.
"How am I gonna play this concert?" So I just drank a bunch of coffee, and I said, "You know what? The jet lag ends tonight." And I went out with the trombone section and some other people, and we ended up having Indian food at like 3 a.m. It was awesome. So I beat the jet
You
lag.
have to fight it, right?
Oh my God, I had to fight so hard. I was so tired.
That first night's so important. Like, you got to fight for that first night as much as you can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a slow.
I have going to Asia is tough. Coming back is even harder. The jet lag coming back is so freaking brutal from Asia. Yeah, I last time I was in Asia, 2016, and it took me a solid week and a half to get over that.
Yeah, coming back, I got sick for sure. Your body's just not used to it. Lots of water
Lots
for
of
when
water.
we get to travel again in 2023.
Yep. 2023. Exactly. Well, I want to get back to the topic at hand, Mr. Marques Young. Marques, yeah, we hung out a lot in college. We played a lot of like duets, trios, quartets, played section stuff, of course. He's just an awesome dude, awesome talent, really. Yeah, I miss the dude. I wish I could play with him more, but like we just described, being on the other side of the world, we don't get so many opportunities to be together.
You want to get to the questions?
Let's question it up, Sebastian. We should have question music, by the way.
You want to make some?
Ooh.
Pick it up. Just pick another part of the first bit. That could be like question sounding.
Yeah. Okay. So this is from Dan Morris. Thank you, Dan. How you doing? Thanks for your message and reaching out. This is a really good question. We'd love to. Oh, that's your. I was reading your response. I am so sorry.
I just got that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I was thinking, this is a really good question. That's kind of vain to say about your own question. So I think you should leave that in. Sebastian had responded to Dan saying, hey, we'll get to it in the next, basically saying we'll get into in the next podcast. So Dan, here's your question, not Sebastian's response. Greetings. Listen to the Lars episode. He talks of the Japanese student who was given permission to play the piece how he wanted. In that vein, do you advocate assigning specific pieces to students, or do you choose a set of works that might work a target area and allow them to choose the one that speaks to them?
Oh, that's a good question. Thanks, Dan. Personally, you have to understand the standards when you're in school. I mean, you have to spend some time with the standards, especially if you're going down certain performance tracks. I mean, you're not going to get to avoid the David, for example. But people that know me know that it's really important to me to, explore, support, and celebrate the music of our time as well. So I think if you can make sure there's a fundamental understanding of the standards, make sure they have an understanding of what's important. And then I'm a big fan of using music to tackle things, areas of your playing that you've been scared of, right? Like, I think I avoided the Tomasi like the plague when I was younger because I was scared of playing up in that range. But when I finally forced myself to do it, it helped develop that range so much, and a million other things like that. What do you think?
I think that, when it comes to being a teacher, I guess I'll approach it from that side. I try not to be too cookie cutter with my approach with anything when I teach. I try to cater to the needs of the students, both what they need to work on material wise and also kind of how they need to work on it depending on their learning style. Not everyone learns the same. Not everyone's needs are the same. So I guess a little bit of both. I might present like the options I find to be fitting of like what they need to be working on. I don't just say work on this unless it is, there are sometimes it's not cut and dry. Like at some point, if you're a bachelor's student, you're going to, as a bass horn player, you're going to have to learn New Orleans. You're going to have to learn Lebedev Concerto One Movement and the Concerto Allegro. You're going to have to learn,
If you haven't set sail with Barnacle Bill, you're not living.
I guess I'm not living. I've never set sail with him.
You've never played Barnacle Bill?
No.
Young man. I send you back to school.
I don't think I ever played it. I never played any showpieces.
Next retreat.
No. Jim Markey did it too well at the last one. I think we'll leave it to him. I try to give them what they need, but not just force feed. Make them think about because if you have a choice, you have to think about why, right? And so I think that's important as well.
I really like what you said about every student. You have to spend time really, and that's something I had to learn as I grow, as we're both growing as teachers. We're still young professors, and the fact that every student learns differently, and the more experiences you have with different students, figuring out which way they learn and what they respond to. Some people, they need more structure. Some people need more encouragement. It's a real fascinating. That's the fun part about being a professor, because we can always keep growing and learning.
It's important for students to be able to teach themselves. And in moments like this, it feels like the student that Lars was talking about was trying to play from the aspect of okay, what does teacher want to hear? What does my teacher want to hear? Rather than stepping outside of yourself and saying, well, what do I want to sound like? And do I sound like that? And I've run across that a lot with students. I think it's important to be able to describe how you do something and why you do something.
So we got a 5-star review on iTunes from Zach. Thank you very much, Zach. Zach says, how long did it take to get a sound you were actually happy with? Huge thanks to the both of you. You guys are the best and offer a ton of insight from your own careers as well as the people you interview that really helps young musicians such as myself. Well, thank you very much. That is very kind of you to say.
Well, thanks, Zach. Well, I'll tell you when I know. No, I mean, I think I have a good sound overall. I'm not always happy with my sound. So I say that jokingly, but I think that's part of finding your sound is, it sounds a little morose, but never being quite satisfied with what you have already and constantly striving to get better. And I think if you adopt that mentality that you are already searching and it will improve, it kind of helps, the problem helps the solution too.
Yeah, that's a great question, and obviously something that we think about a lot, right? Because I mean, trombone is a sound instrument, right? We're not always playing fireworks and gymnastics. I mean, what makes our instrument special is having a special sound, and that's part of what will get you a lot of places. But what you're saying is the most important thing, and if you can make your sound add to that, that's even better. But as far as developing your sound, I mean, I think Nick and I would agree on it's a combination of a lot of things. First of all, it's listening and filling your head with wonderful sounds, being around great players, listening to great recordings, getting that into your subconscious, making sure your body isn't getting in the way with bad posture, tension, making sure your embouchure is set up in a natural way. And for me, I think it's really gravitating towards what feels good. You gotta think about the sound literally has to make you feel good. That's usually my centering spot. Letting the air massage the lips, and really, if it's making you feel good, it's a good chance of making others feel good. And you have to get that right. Like when like you play for someone and you can kind of feel when they're really enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to circle back to that. Make the air massage your lips. Is that a Kidspin thing?
No, I think the first person I heard say that was Nitzan.
Because the first person I heard say it was you, actually. You said it to me, you kind of said it in passing like you did just now, and that was like first retreat. And that stuck with me. I was like, wow, that's a great way to think about it. And when I'm really fatigued, especially, that's one thing that really helps is trying to like focus on just vibration of the lips and really efficiency. That's another one, like getting down into the brass tacks of like developing a sound. I mean, I think, like I said, the quest to have a better sound is kind of the first step. I think a lot of young players need to spend more time just really slow playing and thinking about sound. Because look, we're in the business of making sound first and foremost. So, if you can get all around the horn playing Carnival of Venice, that's great. But if you do it with a nasally sound, what's the point? It's got to sound good.
You can get away with a lot of stuff for having a nice sound. I can speak personally for that.
Me too.
Did you spend time with the Vernon book growing up? That really helped me conceptualize a lot of things.
Oh, you mean the one that I play out of almost every day? Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
I think he does a great job of really spending time writing about sound and like making you think of adjectives of how you want your sound to be described and stuff like that. Other quick things are you making sure you're buzzing in the center of the pitch all the time, not like kind of around it, but like right in the center where all the overtones are. One of my favorite centering thoughts that Jim talks about, Jim Markey, that I love, and it's been really helpful for students, I found, and worked really well, is thinking about the 3 core elements of sound to him. And for him, it's brilliance, warmth, and core. And if you look at it like, like an audio designer, it's kind of like thinking about the highs, mids, and lows.
Right.
You want this balance. And when you listen to a sound, everyone hears sounds, right? And you know when you like it, and you know when you don't like it. And I encourage my students to, when they hear a sound they don't like, look at it through that lens and try to figure out what it's lacking. Does it need a little more core? Does it need a little more color and brilliance on top? Does it need more of the lows and the warmth? And that's been such a quick way to get to where I want to be.
Yeah. That's a great way of describing it. Yeah. When I was a student, I was in this kick at one point of whatever room I'd be in, I would play these slow scales like 7:38 in the morning and play really slow scales and stop on each note and try to find the maximum resonance. And I had this thought in my head, like if every note I could find the natural frequency of something in this room to vibrate, then I'm really playing with a good sound. I mean, I don't know. I doubt that's a scientifically backable thing, but for me, it just really honed me in on like what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to make the room vibrate with sound, you know?
That sounds like what a trombone superhero name would be, or like a character on a video game. Max Resonance.
Max Resonance. Yeah. Also, around the same time, Joe Alessi was on this kick of with his students talking about sound, telling them, listen to others, and for you describe the sound, the qualities of sound that they have that you like. And I didn't know this was going on. And my friend Kyle Covington walks in my practice room and he's just standing there listening to me play. And he goes, chocolate wave. And then he walks out of the room. And I was like, so I was like, what was that about? Chocolate wave? He goes, that's your sound. You have chocolate wave. I was like, okay, Kyle.
I'll take it.
Well, all right. That could be worse. It could be like metallic thunder. I guess that would be worse.
That could be another superhero, Chocolate Wave.
Chocolate Wave.
You know, it's one thing we haven't mentioned in regards to sound, Nick.
What would that be?
Equipment. You notice how we haven't mentioned that, you know, because all this stuff is so much more important. You know, you gotta figure all this other stuff out behind the mouthpiece. And then when you're at a really refined state, then you can, I think, in my opinion, start tinkering with stuff. So the practice hangs have been awesome.
Yeah.
We're there weekdays at 1 to 2 Eastern time. It's a very low key thing. We're all on mute. Come join us. tromboneretreat.com/practice. It's been a really good time. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider leaving us a rating or review on iTunes. If you want to leave a question or topic you'd like us to discuss, we'll answer it on the podcast. Follow us at Trombone Retreat on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, tromboneretreat.com, where you can also join our mailing list. Also, feel free to shoot us an email, tromboneretreat@gmail.com, as we love hearing from you. On Instagrams, follow Nick at basstrombone444 and myself at js.vera. And as always, don't forget
to retreat yourself.